Welcome to the Midnight Mission's Real Talk with the Midnight Mission. This is our third virtual roundtable, and we are here to address topics that are concerning homelessness. And this evening, we are going to discuss how important reuniting families is to solving homelessness, what the Midnight Mission is doing to assist families to reunite, and what people like you can do to help. We value your time, so we have purposely made these sessions for 30 minutes. Because of the limited amount of time, if you do have some questions, if you want to put them in the chat, we'll make sure that our panelists are able to answer them. Unfortunately, our president and CEO, Mike Arnold, could not be with us tonight, but we have with us Ricardo Rosales, the director of Homelight Family Living. He has spent over the last 3 decades helping homeless families restore their lives. And we'll also hear from Sarah Gabriel, who is an alumnus of our Homelight Family Living, and she's going to share her story. And so, Ricardo, with much ado, I will let you begin to talk.
Thank you, Heidi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ricardo Rosales. I'm the director of the Homelight Family Living Program, part of the Midnight Mission. The Homelight Family Living Program has been in Inglewood for the past 25 years. So we're actually celebrating 25 years of service in Inglewood this year. I have been here with the Midnight Mission almost 16 years with the mission. And our program provides temporary housing coupled with supportive services to families who are experiencing homelessness. The Midnight Mission believes in not a handout, but a hand up. So we look forward to giving families all the tools and resources and support that they need to get back on their feet. Having been here, almost 16 years, one of the issues I saw early on was this issue with families trying to reunify with their kids. And these families are really caught in a difficult situation. They're caught in this catch-22 situation, which is families can't get into programs like ours because they don't have their kids. You can't get your kids back unless you have housing. So what ends up happening is that these children stay in foster care much longer than they need to, and many times end up emancipating from the system. We all know that children staying in there longer than they need to or emancipating from the system, the outcomes are just not very good. Just really quick, I want to share a statistic with you. In the United States, the largest number of homeless women and children let me start over. The U.S. has the largest number of homeless women and children in industrialized nations. Among the homeless, women account for 60% of the women with kids, but only 65% of them have a child in their custody. We know that these children who stay in foster care and get out of foster care end up homeless later on in their lives. And some of the other stats that I found really interesting is that 50% of these youth will become homeless, 50% won't graduate from high school, 50% of the girls will become pregnant before they turn 21. And in talking with one of my colleagues who works with emancipated youth, he tells me that 9 of the 10 young ladies who are on the street who are runaways, they're from the foster care system. And many of them.
Message today that Winnie Haynes, Lynn's mother. Winnie.
Who's this?
Jarvis, can you please mute yourself?
And so we know that there's really bad outcomes for children remaining in foster care. Years ago, I tried to find a solution for these families, and we tried to work with the judicial system through the courts, and really didn't have much success. And what happened about 4 years ago was that we were helping one of our moms who was in our crisis program downtown. And this is for single women. And in working with her, we found out that she had children and that she was going to lose custody and that they're going to be put up for adoption within 2 weeks. And in working with her, we learned that she was doing a lot of the work that DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services, was requiring of her. So she was really almost close to maybe getting her kids back, but she needed housing. and she needed some additional support. So in working with her, we were able to intervene and we're able to get her to reunify with her kids by bringing her into this program. And we were able to stop the adoption, and we were able to help her reunify with her kids here in the program. They lived in our program for a year. While in our program, they continued working on all the issues that led to their homelessness, along with complying with the court's mandates and with DCFS mandates. So they continued with case management, with plans for recovery, addiction treatment, domestic violence counseling, additional mental health counseling. The children were in counseling. And we were able to help this family reunify and restore, and they were able to transition successfully from our program and have their case closed, DCFS closed jurisdiction. And in learning from that one case, we took that and we continue to work with DCFS. And I'm really happy to say that over the last 2 years, we've been able to reunify over 26 families, and 18 of those families have transitioned successfully into the program. We continue to learn from working with the families and with DCFS, building our partnership with them. Really quick, let me just tell you about a couple of the families who have just gone through the program and done well. I told you about this, her name was Mary, the lady that we learned from this initial case, but we also stay in contact with them. So they left the program. It's been 2 years. We still stay connected with them. So we know that the children are doing well, that they're in school, that they're doing well. So we know that we've been able to help to change the trajectory for them. And just recently, we had one of our moms go to court on Wednesday, and they closed her case. And in closing her case means DCFS is closing jurisdiction. The kids are no longer under their jurisdiction. The mom has full custody of her children. She's done with the courts, and now we can just focus on her and continuing to strengthening their family. So we continue to work on things like parenting and employment and savings and additional mental health, parenting. So there's still a lot of work to do when the families get their kids back. Because really, when they get their kids back, it's really where the hard work comes. Because a lot of the work they've done is because it's been mandated to get your kids back. Now they got their kids back. Now it's trying to be a full-time parent, along with continuing to do all the other mandates that were required of them. We had a mom here. Her name was Melanie. And Melanie had a baby, about 6 months old. But she had 2 teenage daughters, 13 and 14, who she'd been separated from for over a year. And then working with her, she came in and she did a really strong program with us, found a sponsor, and was able to move forward with DCFS and get her children back. She is now with her 2, 3. Actually, what we did is she was in a 1-bedroom apartment, and because the teenagers were coming back now, we moved her to a 2-bedroom apartment, and she was able to bring her teenagers here. So we were able to reunify that family. And then another family that comes to mind is her name is Stephanie. This was a mom who had a lot of work to do, wasn't ready for our program yet, still needed to do a lot of work with the courts and with DCFS, primarily with mental health, addiction treatment. And we were able to help her stay into an inpatient program and then into an outpatient program. So we worked with this family a year before she even came into our program. And then we brought her into our program. And then she got her kids back. And then she was able to reunify with those families, with her family. It takes a lot of courage for our moms to be able to do this kind of work, because they do have to work on themselves, but also address a lot of their fears. And I say that because a lot of the times children are removed from the home because of domestic violence. We have a mom the mom I just mentioned, who had her case closed just last week. You know, when we met her and sharing her story with us, she was, beaten up by the abuser, and she testified, went to court, but he was out of jail in 4 months, and he came out and he attacked her again, and we brought her into our program, made sure that she was okay to go back to court and testify against him in October of last year, and this time he got 4 years. So she just had her case closed. The abuser's in prison for a long time. She is, thriving in our program. And, she did something else too, which is she took custody of her niece because her niece mom had passed away. So she got her 2 kids out of foster care and took her niece, and we're able to reunify this family here in this program. And she's actually one of my families I'm really proud of, because she worked so hard. Every time I walk by her apartment, she has her door open, and I could see her on the computer, and the kids are doing tutoring, and they're just doing a lot to mend their family and move forward. We are working hopefully with other agencies that want to do the same. I think we're probably one of the few programs that's doing this type of reunification, where we're allowing mom to come here without her kids and then start the overnight visitations here, or at least the unmonitored. So the processes, they go from monitored to unmonitored to overnights to full reunification. We've been able to have the family start here without their kids and then start the unmonitored and then overnights, and then eventually get their kids back. We've noticed that DCFS is really quick to want to close their cases and say, oh, they're doing good, let's close the case, your kids are going back. And we're really like, wait up, hold on. We still need you to work with us and go through this transition period. We can kind of wean them off of services and still make sure that they get all the resources that they're entitled to. I think reunifying families it's a huge impact on not just the family, but on our society as well. And it's one way of breaking the cycle of poverty. If we can get these kids to do well, and they can see their mom as sort of a hero in their life who overcame adversity and homelessness, and they're able to be empowered by that. I tell our moms, if you work hard, your kids will too. And if they do that, it'll work out. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Ricardo, so much. Well, our next panelist is going to be Sarah. And Sarah, I will give the floor to you to share your story.
Thank you so much. I'm going to set my timer so I don't hold you guys hostage. My name is Sarah. It's a pleasure to be able to sit with you all tonight. A little bit about, kind of what led me into the situation when I first met Ricardo is, and I shared about this before, I kind of had like this perfect cocktail of a childhood, right? Of all the variations of the best ways to lead into like an unmanageable life. A lot of trauma, tons of different trauma, from emotional, sexual abuse, narcissistic mom. My father passed away when I was super young, to the disease of addiction. And at 12 years old, somebody offered me crystal meth and I said yes. And that was a very long journey through addiction, a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors, mimicking relationships, abusive relationships that I had experienced with my mom and my romantic partners. Just a ton of trauma and terrible choices. Not really having any direction or people in my corner that I trusted to have my best interest in mind, and just battling myself along the way. Not able to meet life on life's terms, so to speak. I had my son when I was 22. My entire world, like, it gave me something to love and be in love with. And, as a lot of people think that it was going to be what I needed to stay focused and get on track. And that unfortunately wasn't the story. I remained in some extremely abusive relationships, a lot of domestic violence. Things from like being held hostage to physical and mental abuse, just a lot of different like mental struggles and all of that. The bitter ends of my addiction ended up in a very, very severe rock bottom, which I'm extremely grateful for at this stage in my life. I ended up being addicted to heroin. I ended up trying to leave the abusive relationship that I was in, disconnected from my son. And that kind of sent me on a journey of being homeless for 6 years. Whether it was roaming the streets, not having somewhere to go, or until the last 2 years, I was in a tent, losing my teeth, losing my mind. Like, I was the crazy lady on the corner yelling obscenities at traffic, like really, really suffering. missing my son and wondering like, why can't I stop? How do I get my life back together? When will this ever end? I was fortunate enough to meet with a homeless outreach team that answered my prayers. I was able to go into treatment. I was willing, I had surrendered. I was certain that I wasn't going to be able to find a way to find the kind of relief that I was truly looking for. I had looked in every single corner and every single way out, and I had surrendered, and I went into treatment knowing that I needed to do this for me, regardless of what was going to be happening with my son, because I couldn't live my life the way that I was living. I hadn't spoke to my son in 2 years. I literally didn't know where he was. I had an idea of where he might be. And that was with his very abusive father, who we had a permanent restraining order against. When I was about 6 months clean, and on his 16th birthday, I went looking for him again, and I found him. And this part always gets me. And he welcomed me back with open arms. And at that time, I was in sober living, and I was doing outpatient, and I was a member of Narcotics Anonymous, and I was being of service in the community, and I was doing everything that I could to get back on my feet. I just didn't have somewhere to bring him home to. And he was really wanting to leave his dad's, and I couldn't bring him to sober living, and all of these different things were playing out. And lo and behold, I got introduced to someone who was familiar with Homelight. And I sat on that number for like 2 months thinking that this was too good to be true. There was no way this happens for other people. It's not the kind of thing that would happen for me. And I finally made that call. I was invited to come in on an interview the very next day. I had a very long, transparent, honest conversation with Ricardo and a couple of the other women in the front office, and was invited to move into Homelight, I think within a week. And the wonderful thing about Homelight is that, like Ricardo was saying, I mean, there's so many opportunities to learn how to reacclimate back into society, to learn how to budget, to learn how to work with finances, to go back to school, to work on my driver's license, to work on therapy, to work on a bank account, to work on amending things in my past on my record. And those things were so incredibly valuable, and have really created a platform for the life that we have today. I also feel that the most important creation that they provided for us was this opportunity for us to be able to refacilitate that mother and son relationship without the stresses of a heavy LA rent, and without the stresses of are we going to be safe? We were behind locked gates, and there was security all of the time. And we had this amazing support team that was always there to make sure that we were moving in the right direction. And that accountability was extremely important, because, like a lot of us left to our own devices when we're not familiar with structure and we're not familiar with making our own decisions. Emotional relapse and mental relapse is a strong part of a lot of people's stories. And so I wanted to make them proud. I wanted to be able to make myself proud, and I felt the love and the encouragement from everyone. My son was able to start his therapy. He was doing tutoring. We were going back and forth from him and his dad, his dad's and my place. But more than anything, we were really working on our relationship and working through a lot of that programming that I had carried with me up until that point. Because I was working on my credit, because I was saving money, because we were able to work through a lot of the financial burdens and financial amends and things that I had to make getting my driver's license. In October of 2020, I applied for our own apartment. And I was approved on my own credit, which was amazing. I went in there, I think, with a 300 something credit score. And when I left, it was almost at a 700. Which I've sustained this entire time. My son is 19 years old now. We have a phenomenal relationship. He still lives with me. He's working on his self-sufficiency, his emotional freedom. I've kept the same clean date from that first time that I went into treatment of January 19th, 2018. I have a little over 4 years clean. Giving back into the community is a really important factor for me. I get to guide other women through this process. I get to guide other youth that also are experiencing homelessness or addiction or trauma recovery. Those are things that I believe is part of my process and part of my calling, and why I went through the things that we went through. And literally, I was saying earlier, it's so hard for me to be in the same room with Ricardo because I get so emotional. every time just filled up with so much gratitude. Had I not had that opportunity, that safe, loving, nurturing environment with accountability and with encouragement, I don't know if I would be where I'm at today. It's just so much trying to recover from an entire life of the things that we pollute our minds and our bodies and our spirit with. And I'm just eternally grateful. And this is my apartment. My car is down in the parking garage. I have 2 kitties. It's just a regular old life now. And I'm just super, super grateful. So thank you so much.
Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much for your honesty, for your authenticity, and just for the gratitude that you show in your story. You know, your life is an example. We talked last time about myths surrounding homelessness, that, you know, people don't get better, and you blow that myth right out of the water. And so thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for our panel? We have about 7 minutes left in our event. So any questions? Sarah and Ricardo are both open to answer anything that you might have on your mind.
Heidi, there was a question earlier about, do we take single dads? Do we help single dads? And yes, we do. We help single dads. We've always been one of the programs that helps out single dads. Most programs, up until about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, would not allow single dads or families with teenage boys. And we've always opened our doors to families who had a hard problem getting into other programs. So we help couples, we have single parents, single dads, and of course, single moms.
I just wanted to chime in since there's a moment there. I remember, I can't remember his last name, but John, who was in the program, and his wife was killed in a drive-by, and he was suffering from horrible depression, and he came into Homelight, and he worked at the Midnight Mission in downtown LA and lived at the Homelight program. And I just love how when our programs can work together like that to help families. And Ricardo, your work has been so inspiring to me. I've been here 12 years, and I just really admire what you do with homeless families. And there's so many success stories like Sarah's, and you're such a big part of that. And I know this wasn't what the purpose of this meeting was, but I'm saying it because there was time.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, his name was John Rodriguez, and we met John, who was trying to get into a shelter, and I didn't have room for him here. And his wife was killed in a drive-by walking with the kids. So she was holding hands with the kids when she got shot in the middle of a drive-by. And he called me for help, and I didn't have room for him. But I liked him on the phone. I just liked him, like, this guy, oh, he's so motivated. He wants to do it for his kids. And I was able to put him in an emergency shelter, and I promised him, if you do 3 months at this emergency shelter, I'll bring you into my program afterward. And we did. We brought him in, and he ended up working for us. He was a chef for the UCLA student dorm, and he ended up being our chef too for a long time. Not incredible stories, but you know, it's the families that do all the hard work. I always say, we'll give you supportive services, a temporary place to live, but you're going to do all the hard work. And like Sarah, she did. I just want to say thank you to Sarah, because I've called her in a couple of times to say, hey, I have a couple of families here who could use you to help them, because they're young and they're just new into recovery, and you could help them. And she's come back and helped families whenever I ask her for help. And those families have now started to do well. Many of them have moved forward. And in fact, she now works for an agency who works with the homeless and is doing a great job there. So you keep going, Sarah.
We have a couple of minutes left. If there's no other questions, Ricardo, Sarah, do you have any last thoughts that you would like to leave the event, would like to leave the people here with?
I just think that Reunifying Families, again, we're a small program. We have 15 families in our program, and we're a small program, but I'm always looking at see where we can have the biggest impact. And I think Reunifying Families is a huge impact, because we not only help moms, but we're helping the kids so that they do well. We can break that cycle. So I think, hopefully we can get the word out so that other agencies can start doing the same, be able to help more. There's a lot of families. The word's getting out there. I'm getting calls all the time from social workers who, hey, I got a family. Maybe I don't have the space, and we got to look for another shelter or something.
Yeah, I think I was going to kind of piggyback off of that. Also, what I do with work, and I've been with my job for a little over 2 years now, and I get to see a lot of times that, I mean, not only the stigma of what addiction looks like or why parents and their children are separated, that it's all rooted in trauma. All of it is rooted in trauma. And when there's healing and when there's supportive services and when there's a team of people rallying around where whatever exit that person wants to take, right? Like whatever self-sabotage or reason that they think they can't do it, when there's a team of people that can kind of meet all of those exits in order to help them secure that structure and that safety, the growth is unmeasurable. Just having that safe place to really be able to put both of your feet sturdy in the ground while you're trying to recenter yourself is essential to that ability to have hope within yourself. And then that hope is reflected by other people believing in you. Because really what it comes down to is us learning how you believing in us while we learn how to believe in ourselves. And so I definitely agree with Ricardo also. It's just there's such a lack of resources for families and a lot of women continue to stay out there. Fathers continue to stay out there because of all of the hoops that need to be jumped through or all of the barriers and limitations. And if those, corral wasn't so tight, I think that there would probably be a lot more successes and failures. So thank you for just having the desire and the willingness and the interest, the curiosity, the compassion to kind of sit in this space and explore these topics.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ricardo. We are right at 30 minutes, so we are going to end our virtual roundtable. We appreciate all of you for being here, for hearing us, and for hearing stories of success through reuniting families. Thank you so much.